Hello and welcome to Artwork, a conversation with creative people about the joys, the challenges and the mundane moments of living an artistic life. We're your hosts, I'm Poppy Rose.
And I'm Brie Robertson.
And our artist today is Australian actor and creator Bianca Zouppas, a good friend of Brie's from university.
Acting for stage and screen has been and continues to be Bianca's passion. After winning the USA Green Card lottery a few years ago, Bianca has spent her time between Australia and the US working in the film and TV industry for projects with Amazon Prime, Fox and Bravo.
Since the interference of COVID and having her time during pilot season in LA cut short, Bianca decided to return to Brisbane to pursue her first love of theatre once again.
As well as performing, Bianca's passion for fostering supportive and sincere connections between people in the creative industry led her to create CALI, Creative Artistic Ladies Incorporated, which she has been running since 2018. CALI is a place for creatives to come together and flex their creative muscles in an array of hands-on workshops. Bianca also coaches young people who inspire her and keep the passion for performing alive.
In this episode, Bianca tells us what pilot season in LA is like, and the necessity of asking yourself what really makes you happy, and allowing your goals to shift and change as you grow. We also talk about the joys of creating your own project and the importance of supporting other women.
Let's dive in. I am so excited today to have a really good friend of mine on the podcast. Her name is Bianca Zouppas, and I studied with her at Griffith University. We studied theatre together, and we've had so many crazy adventures. I was just telling Poppy B about our final assignment for our theatre degree, how we created a 3-day festival, and you and I created a cabaret about shit.
It was amazing, and I still sing that song today. So.
Oh my God, having 2 toilets on stage full of Nutella, flicking it over the audience.
It's brilliant.
I know. I would love to one day develop that more with you.
That's literally a dream of mine, to be on stage doing that show again, throwing shit on people or Nutella.
Can you remember the song? Can you give us a...
S is for the way it slides right out. H is for the way it heals my mouth. And shit
is all that I need to do. We were dressed as airplane hostesses, and the whole goal was people, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do a shit in your boyfriend's bathroom. Hello, this is a life and death situation.
Getting to know you.
We've had some amazing times together, and then we even traveled Europe together, and that was so great as well. And but we haven't really been in each other's day-to-day lives for years. I'm so excited to hear a bit more about what you've been working on and how your journey has led you in such a different direction than what I have gone after uni. So let's just start with giving yourself a little introduction and maybe telling us about a few of the things that you've been working on recently or what you're currently working on, so that we can get a feel for what you're doing and who you are.
Wow. Okay. Well, I am Bianca. I live in Brisbane, Australia currently. I was previously living between the US and Australia because I won the Green Card lottery about 4 years ago, which allowed me to work in the States without having a visa or anything like that. So that was amazing. I was doing producing and casting and also auditioning and trying to chase that acting dream whilst I was living in the States. However, I have recently decided to give up my green card because of the whole coronavirus situation. It was a really hard decision for me. I had a big cry about it because obviously, that was my childhood dream to go to the States and be an actor. And I guess I've learnt and discovered a lot about myself through making that decision on not having that there anymore. Obviously, coronavirus being one of the major factors and the States being a mess, but also the fact that now that I'm back in Brisbane and back in Australia, I found that I've really been able to do what I love again, as opposed to doing other jobs, which I have to, do those to make money so I can try and pursue the thing that I love. So now that I'm back in Brisbane and I've been here for almost a year now, I've been back from the States, it's been amazing. I mean, obviously with all of the COVID stuff, Australia is very lucky in the way that we only had really short lockdowns, especially in Queensland. So I was auditioning quite a bit. A lot of big American productions have come to Australia. But most recently, at the end of last year, I worked on a brand new musical, which was really fun, like a non-musical musical, because I wouldn't call myself a singer, but I love to sing. And the show was, the music in the show wasn't like, song and dance numbers. They were like kind of rocky and dirty, and that was called Absolute Objectivity, and it was amazing to be back on stage because I've spent a lot of time like chasing the film and TV career as opposed to being on stage. But I know deep down in my heart that that's where I belong, on the stage. And since then, just like moving into 2021, I put it out into the universe that I wanted to do more theatre. So most recently, last week I actually just wrapped on. I was working on a production of Electra and Orestes as an artistic associate. I stepped in for the role of Electra and helped develop that character because the girl that was playing Electra was stuck in a hotspot in Sydney. So I stepped in her place and kind of helped develop the role until she was able to come back up to Brisbane. And then I start another project on the 28th of February for a murder mystery cabaret dinner theatre show called Cluedo, the New Suspects, which is based on the board game Cluedo.
Oh my God, that sounds so fun.
That's where I'm at right now. That's what's going on. And then obviously with my side hustle jobs, I teach acting to young people in the evenings and teach Pilates in the morning. And then have my little business called CALI, which I'm slowly chipping away at. So I do feel a little bit consumed at the moment and like I'm wearing myself a little thin. But I think we have those periods where, you go through that and then you have like your lull. So I'm just at the moment stepping into the new year, into this new way of life with COVID, and just kind of working out what and how to exist. But I'm happy. I'm really happy.
I'm so happy for you. That's a huge return to what you love. Because I remember one of my first memory of you was during orientation week for our theatre course.
Yeah.
And we were using our bodies to perform How to Be a Seed that's like bursting through the ground. And I had taken 2 years off from high school and I had not been in a drama room for 2 years. Like I was kind of coming home into this feeling of like using my body again. And I took a little risk, but I didn't take a huge risk. And then I looked over at you and I just see your body like a seed pushing through the ground, like shaking. And I just looked at you and I was like, whoa, she is in this moment. And from the beginning, I was just always so inspired of your passion to perform, your commitment to perform. And you have had some deviations away from theatre, and it's just so exciting for you that you're coming back to that.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little? When I met you, you were going to be a primary school teacher or a high school teacher, and you were doing drama as well. But then you changed. Why did you decide to jump fully into theatre, and what is it about it that you love?
So funny that you said that because I had literally totally erased that from my memory that I was doing that teaching course.
Wow.
Which is so crazy. Now that you've reminded me, I'm like, oh my God, I was literally in a teaching course. What the fuck? That's crazy. But I actually only spoke about this tonight. And the reason that I stepped away from it is because I knew that I would be an amazing teacher. And I would get stuck in that job. And I didn't want that for myself. And there were a couple of times there where I was like, obviously trying to impress my parents or do my parents proud, or kind of live what they thought was the right thing to do, not do an arts degree or an acting degree and get a real job. So I was like, oh, I'll go into do like drama, but also teaching. And then I was like, you know what? No, I do not want to get stuck in that. I have always been such a driven and passionate person, and kind of for a long time really known who I am as a person. And I think that's actually from doing theatre from such a young age, and like all of the personal development stuff that kind of came through that. So I really stood my ground and said, no, I'm just going to go straight into this theatre thing. And, you know, when I'm 50, if I haven't made it, then I can be a teacher, but I'm going to chase my dreams.
That's so important. I think it's so brave as well to like follow your dream and your passion. And like you say, there is that stable option there, that safety net of being a teacher in a stable job where you have security and you know that you're going to have income and all of that safety, stability, security that comes with that. And to choose to not have that and to choose to follow what lights you up instead is such a brave and courageous choice. So yeah, good job for following your dream, because you know you're going to be, like
Thank
you say,
you.
teaching as a job is in a school is always going to be there. It's always going to be an option. So yeah, I think it's an important lesson.
And you have always been so driven. Like, you're probably the most driven, passionate person, one of the most driven, passionate people that I know. And I remember just like, I've just always known that no matter what happens, like, she's gonna do what she loves. Like, she's gonna go for it. And I've always seen you as such an inspiration in that way.
Oh, thank you, darling.
But yeah, I'd love to, with this new like decision to let go of your green card, and with the journey that you've had over the last few years of pursuing film, I'd love to hear a little bit about how your path or your definition of success has adapted with where you are in life and what's happening in your current situation. We talk a lot about this on the podcast because for different people in different art forms, society usually dictates some kind of expectation of what a successful actor is, or what a successful musician looks like, or what a successful visual artist is, and what they should be doing and what projects they should be working on. And I'd love to hear from your perspective as a performer, what that journey has been like for you, whether you have felt the pressure of having to achieve what society says, especially now with this new decision, like what a personal process that's been for you to maybe let go of what society tells you is successful and having to like define it for yourself.
Yeah, that, I mean, everything that you're saying right now speaks to me a lot. Okay, let's just go back a little bit. So obviously graduated from uni from my arts degree, and I feel like as an artist things happen in ways where you're really into your work and you're not really thinking about the outside perspective, because you're so passionate and so focused about what you're doing. But then, you know, there's a circle that comes around and you're like, oh, constantly thinking, oh, am I doing the right thing? Maybe I shouldn't be doing this job. So for me, I finished my theatre degree. I absolutely loved that degree that we did at Griffith. And I think that showed because I was able to book jobs like straight out of uni, and that they were theatre jobs. And that was kind of rare for people straight out of their degree. And I loved that. I loved working with the industry professionals. I learned a lot. But then obviously got to the point where I was like, oh, okay, so what's the next step? I have to do the next thing that is expected of an actor. So I was like, oh, I'll move to Sydney because that seems like the right thing to do, right? That seems like the next step because that's where everything's happening. So I decided to move to Sydney, and I lived in Sydney for 3 years, and I pretty much I slogged my guts out for 3 years working in a full-time job as a dental nurse and not really doing any acting because I had to pay for my rent. I mean, I was lucky enough to book a job pretty much as soon as I got to Sydney, and that was on a feature film, an American feature film, which we shot in Indonesia. It was a low-budget horror film called Dead Squad. And I literally only got that job because a girl that I was working with in Brisbane in the theatre industry recommended me to the producer. I met and had an audition with the director over Zoom, and then ended up booking the job. I was unsure as to whether I should even take the job because the money wasn't amazing, but I thought, oh, this is such a great experience to go and live in Indonesia for, 2 months and make a movie. And it was honestly probably the best decision I ever made. The movie was unsuccessful, but the relationships that I built during that process were incredible. And I'm still very good friends with the director and the actors that were in that film. Like, one of the girls lives in New York, and whenever I would travel to New York, I would always catch up with her. And then another one lives in Singapore, and we still talk all of the time as well. And then obviously the director, he is like a second family to me. When I won my green card, they allowed me to live in their house, like rent-free, whilst I was backwards and forwards between America and Australia. So I kind of believe that although the movie was unsuccessful, that I obviously had to take that journey to get to that point. So then I was obviously I won my green card maybe 4 years out of university. And I said to my now husband, Mike, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, living in Sydney and paying rent and then traveling to America and having to try and support myself there whilst I'm trying to chase the dream of being an actor, like constantly spending money on flights and accommodation. And, as an actor, you need to support yourself by like headshots and show reels. And so we moved back to Brisbane, and for the last 4 years, up until March 2020, I was flying backwards and forwards between LA and Australia. And it was honestly exhausting. I had a lot of anxiety. I got really sick often. I had a lot of like health anxiety around whilst I was in America, because I was on my own pretty much. My husband didn't come with me. He would come and visit. And I felt like, I have to be here because I've been given this opportunity with this green card, so I must stay here because this is obviously the next part of my journey. I've done the Sydney thing, now I'm doing the America thing, and not really getting much acting work, working in casting, working in producing, getting like my ass kicked by Americans because they work so freaking hard, feeling sad, but also like having an amazing time as well. Like, I don't want to focus on the negative, but it was freaking hard. But I learnt so much. And then coming back to Australia, obviously COVID hitting, having all of that time to think about, okay, what do I really want? What's important in life? And then just, ending kind of back where I am now, really realizing that I really want to focus on my theatre again, because I felt like I was chasing this film and TV career, which I thought was like what people would class as, that's what an actor should be doing. But that's all bullshit. And now that I've let go of all of those expectations and all of that, all of that shit, I feel like I'm just like booking. Like, the other day, I was literally sitting at my laptop, and within 2 minutes, I booked 2 acting jobs, and that never happens. And I was like,
wow,
whoa, this is so good. And then I got a call back for a TV commercial audition. I feel like because I've just gone, whatever, and I have other stuff going on that I care about, that now, all of this stuff is happening. But it's taken me through all of those, through that journey from Sydney to America to letting go of my green card, to this point right now, and I'm sure I will go down a spiral again. Like I even had a moment tonight where I was talking with Mikey, because I'm just so exhausted at the moment because I feel like I'm really spreading myself thin about, what's my focus? Where do I need to put my energy? And that's just what we do as creatives, you know?
Uh, it's such an amazing journey of, like you said, like letting go of all of that pressure, and when you have that time to actually sit and think. I think so many of the conversations we've had on the podcast in the last couple of months and since we've really started is so many creatives going through this same process of realizing that this pressure has been put on them from society, from parents, from yourself, to be this one specific thing, and that's the only route. But then when you let that go and you realize what actually you want to do, then everything that's meant to be flows to you easily, and you're just an amazing example of that. And it's something I'm so passionate about.
It is baffling, like how much we put ourselves through in the hope of this dream. And when we think about it, it's like the ins and outs of that. Are they actually making us happy? And like, what are we doing to ourselves that we're like busting our guts to try and make it happen? But once we have a moment to step back, it's like, I don't actually want this.
Yeah. What's the
crazy.
focus? What is it that you actually want? Yeah, asking yourself that question, reminding yourself, because we just get so caught up in the day-to-day lives. And also, like, I mean, for me, money has always been something that I worry about, or that was kind of like drilled into me growing up. Like, you get a good job, you make money, you then can buy a house and do all of this stuff. But that's still a journey for me as well, like letting go of that and just embracing that it will come if I just trust my own journey.
But the acceptance of like really choosing your own path is so powerful, and it's so exciting, but it's scary and it's daunting.
And also accepting that your path can change, because maybe at some points you really do want that one dream, and then realizing, actually, I've changed my mind now, I've grown, I've learned new things, I've shifted, I don't want to do that anymore. And realizing that when you let that go, that doesn't mean you're a failure, that doesn't mean that you should beat yourself up about it. You've got to accept that things change. Nothing's the same forever, and if it was, it'd be really boring. And then when you got that one goal, you'd feel maybe even worse because you didn't think about anything else along the way.
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally feel that.
Hello. It's your Artwork Podcast host, briefly interrupting this episode. We hope you're enjoying this conversation and feeling really inspired by this story.
We'd just like to remind you that the Artwork Podcast is a completely independent project, and we'd really appreciate your help in spreading the word. You can do that by subscribing, leaving a comment or a review, and sharing the podcast with your friends.
You can also support the podcast through our tip jar on Patreon. If you believe in this project and you feel there's value in sharing these stories, a small contribution will help us keep going. You can choose to give a monthly or a single donation, and there are some special little rewards in there for you too.
And we'd like to invite you to take part in the artwork conversation by joining our Artwork Community Facebook group. There, you will be able to connect with the artist we featured on the podcast and share your journey with like-minded creatives.
Let's get back to the conversation. Looking back at the things that you have done, I'm really interested to maybe like glean a little bit of experience and knowledge from you about what pilot season looks like, because I'm sure a lot of people who are following their acting dream, pilot season seems to be a mecca for up and coming actors who, it's an opportunity to get seen and to get started. Can you tell us a little bit about what pilot season is and what happens as an actor in pilot season if you go?
Well, to be honest, pilot season is kind of now a thing of the past. It's been fading out over the last, 4 to 5 years, mainly because obviously self-tapes are this new thing that you can do and send off. But pilot season is obviously a period between February and April where all of the new pilots for TV shows are being, pitched. So they're obviously looking for talent so they can shoot the pilot and then try and sell it to networks. So there's a lot of auditions for thousands and thousands and thousands of actors all over the world. I guess the benefit of being in LA during pilot season is that you hope to get into the room, but that rarely happens anymore. And now with COVID, it does not happen at all. So I was there for pilot season last year, 2020. I came back to Australia around the 18th of March. But I was living with 4 other actresses at the time, and between, the 4 of us, we have probably only had about 5 or 6 pilot season auditions just because of the craziness that is COVID. But usually you would get multiple scripts a day, and you would be expected to learn, sometimes 2 to 5 scripts overnight, and then go into the room and put them down in front of casting directors, producers. And then if you were successful enough, you would then obviously go on to, get a call back and then be in front of executive producers, network. And then, especially for Aussies, whether you have a green card or not is a huge deciding factor as to whether you will book a job, because sometimes they don't even take people that have an O1 visa. They will only accept people with green cards. So it's a whole ordeal, and people love it because they feel like they're working, which, you are, because you're just constantly getting scripts and you get to be in your craft and do all of that stuff. But to be honest, definitely wasn't for me. I realized after being there for 2 pilot seasons, and you can be anywhere in the world now. It doesn't matter.
That sounds so stressful to me. Like having to learn all of that overnight and then just perform it the next day in front of all of those people. Like, I'm feeling anxiety symptoms just thinking about that. So I'm well done for giving that a go. Honestly, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then just being okay with the rejection, you just get used to it, and you just realize that it's got nothing. It's like not a personal thing. Maybe you're wearing a perfume that the producer's girlfriend wears and they broke up yesterday. So, you can't take anything personally. Or they don't like the glasses that you're wearing, or maybe you just weren't tall enough. So I let go of like worrying about a job a long time ago, whether I'm going to book the job or not, a long time ago.
Yeah. Was there a process for you to kind of learn to detach yourself a little bit from projects that you hadn't been approved for yet, and how you kind of had to overcome that connection or that feeling of rejection?
I don't remember a specific like moment where I felt like I learned that skill. I feel like it's drummed into you from like as soon as you decide to, choose a career in the performing arts. People like, you have to be okay with rejection. And only, I remember like our first orientation day at uni, it's like 1% of you will make it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like a learned thing that's just like, you can't take it personally. So I feel like, just through that, I never really cared too much. And I think that's probably why I'm still here. And I feel like I also have confidence enough in myself to know that, I am good at what I do. And I do believe in my craft and my talent. I do have moments where I'm like, that was terrible. But most of the time, I feel like, it wasn't me. It wasn't my performance. I can act. It just wasn't the right role for me. And it's all part of the journey, right? Yeah. It's all part of the journey.
So let's move on now. You did pilot season alone for a couple of years, and then you're running the game all
Yeah,
on your
right.
own, fighting for a dream. And and then you created an organization that was really focused on bringing fellow women creatives together.
Mm-hmm.
And when you did this, I was like, yes, this is so great. And I can't wait to hear kind of where the inspiration for this came from and like why you wanted to do it. Because, I feel like as women creatives, and especially in the artistic worlds, where so often we see each other as competitors and we see each other as a threat. And, like there's not enough room for everybody. But you have really like
It's not
wanted to
true.
go. It's not true. And you've done something that's really against the grain and really fighting in the opposite direction. And I would love to hear about that. Tell us all about your project.
Okay, if I have to.
Claire's tell us all about it.
So, oh, I mean, my husband, he definitely pushes and inspires me a lot. I don't know where I would be actually if it wasn't for him. But we were sitting together one day and I was like probably having a mental breakdown, crying a lot about what am I doing with my life? And he said to me, because I think, I was like, what else can I do other than acting to help support myself? And I don't want to be that person that's constantly waiting for a job, for someone to give me a job. I want to be able to hustle. So, he asked me, what else are you good at and what do you love? And I was like, well, I went to an all-girls school and I absolutely loved that community and that energy and that vibe of like women supporting women. And I'm really good at bringing people together, and I like all facets of the creative industries. Like I like fashion, I like makeup, I like painting. So I was like, oh, okay. But and so then I had like, we came up with the idea of CALI, which stands for Creative Artistic Ladies Incorporated. And that was like maybe it'll be 3 years in June, July. And we're like, oh, yeah, great, CALI. Okay, what is it? So at first I was like, oh, maybe it's like events for women, like female actors and just female actors. And I was like, oh, that's very specific and very niche. And I kind of want it to be bigger than that. So then I was like, oh, maybe maybe it's like, I get female actors and I take them to America and I show them around and support them through that. And then I was like, no, that just still doesn't feel right. So it's been a lot of trial and error. And then I contacted a friend of mine who lives in Melbourne who is like a business brain. So I could blurt out my creative ideas and then have her like listen and then maybe talk back to me in like a business sense. Anyway, we went backwards and forwards for a couple of months during COVID last year, and we came to the realization that what CALI is it's events and workshops run by females or female identifying folk for anybody.
Nice.
And since then, we've had three workshops. We did a blooms workshop where women, I had 10 women come along in New Farm Park, which is this beautiful park in Brisbane, and we like made our own bespoke bouquets. And a friend of mine who has her own floristry business hosted the workshop. So obviously it was enabling her to be able to grow and expand her business, but also allowing me to meet new people. And everything is very hands-on. I want every workshop to be hands-on so people can come and be creative. And that's both men and women. Come, be creative, and then go home with something that they've, created. And then we did a jewelry making workshop. And our most recent one was a poetry workshop run by a Queensland slam poet champ. That was amazing. We had 12 people at that one. So, yeah, now I know exactly what it is. Events and workshops run by women for anybody, hands-on. They're creative. Each month I, obviously employ a new creative. It's about allowing them to, giving them a platform to be able to grow and expand and meet new people, and then also, a chance for me to be able to meet new people and invite potential clients or people I'm interested in working with along to something that I've created that I'm proud of.
It's so cool. I want to come. I want to join the next one.
The next one is a painting workshop. Sip and paint with this amazing female artist called Mallory Kate, which is happening at the end of February. So that should be fun.
And what has that been like for you? Like having female artists coming in and working with them and seeing people in the workshops. What is it like?
Oh, it is so awesome. It is so freaking awesome. And I love meeting new people and just seeing people really engage with the artists. It's just been really special. And every time I do a workshop, I learn something new. So it's constantly evolving and growing, but it's definitely one of my key focuses now, like as well as my performance stuff. CALI is got a big part of my heart. I want to grow that and, nourish it. It's like my baby that I want to have for the rest of my life,
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Cool. So you said that you've learned a lot. What are some of the things that you've learned from hosting these workshops? Any tips if anyone else wants to host in-person events when it is safe to do so again?
Yeah, well, I realized that I'm too nice and I give too much. And I literally had ladies tell me that, my first workshop, I think I charged 80 Australian dollars. And the amount of flowers that we had, and then I handmade all of these vegan treats, and then we had a picnic set up, and there was champagne, and it went for 3 hours. And at the end of it, I was like, so any feedback? People were like, you're not charging enough, and you're doing way too much. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was a big learning thing for me, that because I think it's, as a creative, you worry about charging people for something creative, because for people always go oh, sorry, creative industry is money. But I'm like, you know what, fuck the system. That no, women and artists deserve to be paid for their craft because they're giving back to a community. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I started CALI and why I always pay my creatives that come on board. I'm not making them work for free. And also they're growing their network as well. So that's a big thing, just really stepping into that and owning that, and knowing that I can charge for the work that I've put in, and that these artists, this is their career. What else? Also just being really, because I'm a creative, I sometimes have the big, huge ideas and just want to get stuff done, but obviously needing that person there to balance me out, that business person. And my friend Fu has been amazing for that. Just really kind of keeping me in line. And I have another gorgeous friend, Mia, who I can always kind of talk stuff out with. So when I'm having my brain explosion of creativity, they're like, all right, Bianca, let's just take 10 steps back and step through this slowly. Let's just make sure it's going to work. And definitely the biggest learning is that I can charge for what I'm doing, because I'm putting my time and my effort and into this thing.
That is actually so valuable. I think we just so undervalue our time and our skills as creatives. So often it comes up all the time in these conversations we're having, that it is such a big hurdle to overcome, to realize that you're valuable enough to charge for your time and energy and dedication and skills that you can offer. It's amazing that that's such a big block for us.
Yeah, it feels scary.
It's real.
I've recently, because I have a jewelry business, and I've recently like increased the prices, and it was really scary to do that, because I was like, oh, are people still gonna want it, and like it was just a really big mental block that I had, that I was like, I can't charge this amount of money, because it's like, it's this weird thing where like I know the material costs, but I never, when I'm doing the maths, I never ever, like, my time costs, my skill costs, like my effort, my energy, my creativity, I don't put that in the list, in the spreadsheet, when I'm working out how much something's going to cost to make. And I need to start doing that, because like you say, our time and energy, our effort, is our skills that we've learned over the years. It is valuable, but I think it's definitely a scary thing to put a monetary number on that, and make that a big number as well. To make that big number is really scary, and it means you have to really like, fully believe in yourself and have strength and be strong. And I'm getting there, but it's a slow process. You've definitely inspired me today.
That's awesome. Go Poppy. That's so great. And yeah, I mean, every day is like just, new learning. So just to do that is amazing.
As a creative, we can so often find ourselves in the position where it's like, please, does someone want to work with me?
Yeah.
And what has it been like for you to have something that's yours, that's your baby, and you're in charge of it, and it's your responsibility? Has that been really nice for you to have something that like you can put your energy into, and you're not dependent on other people to make that happen?
Yeah, it's really lovely. It's really, really, really nice. And I mean, I actually got upset about this tonight, because Mikey said to me, he's like, you're just like doing all of these things, but like, you really love CALI, and that's where you should be putting your energy. Performing aside, like obviously that's my first kind of love, but CALI has been this huge thing for me over the last couple of years. He's like, I just want you to focus on that, because I really do, like, I know in my heart of hearts that it could be huge, and I have the capacity to grow it into something. So there's definitely moments where I really just it's a time thing as well, right? If I had all of the time in the world, I feel like I could just keep on growing it, but you don't have all of that time. But going back to your question about, do I enjoy kind of having it as my thing? Yes, I'm so proud of it. I care so much about it. I feel like I'm able to do good with it. I'm able to connect with incredible people. So yeah, it's awesome. It's really an awesome feeling.
How important do you think it is that creative women support each other and lift each other up, and not see each other as competitors or a threat? Like, how important is it for us to work together in this?
Oh, 100%. I will not surround myself with people that aren't like that. Like, I don't have time for that anymore, just because it's wasted energy, right? And I've always been the type of person to try and lift people up, especially like my sisters, my girlfriends. I mean, people always talk about tall poppy syndrome being a huge thing in Australia, and I do believe it. And obviously, there are times where I might feel a little bit jealous. I'm actually not really a jealous person, but there are times where you might miss out on a role or whatnot. But when I receive an audition that I go, you know what, I don't think I'm right for this role, I will send it on to a friend who I know would be perfect for the role. I don't hold on to that. I mean, one of the main reasons I started CALI is because I want to learn from other people. Like, if you live that life where you're just trying to compete against other people, you're never going to grow, right? So I now have the opportunity to be able to meet, gather, and learn from some of the craziest, coolest bitches in the creative industries. And I couldn't be happier for that. So the chick that I recently worked with, her name's the Goddess. She is, I don't even know where to start with her, but you should follow her on Instagram. Her Instagram handles Hudstar, HUDZ. Wait 1 second. You must, because she's all about empowering her fellow women and not HUDZSTAR, Hudstar,
Okay.
the Goddess. She's all about like bringing women together and making sure that we're like standing together and supporting one another, and that if you're ever in a room with another woman, you should never look upon her with like, evil eyes. You should be there to like lift her up and hold her up and make her look good. I literally seek out those people for my CALI workshops, like that I have, that I align with. Like I'll always go and have a coffee with the person that I'm about to book for my next workshop to make sure that their kind of values and beliefs align with mine, because I don't want just anybody, hosting a workshop. I need to make sure that, they're on board with what I believe in.
Yeah. That is so great, B.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
think it's so important with other women, like when going back to jealousy, like if someone has an opportunity that you want or something that you want, it's just proof that it's available and that can happen for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to think of it as. If someone's got, like you say, an audition that you would want, there'll be one that for me as well. I think there's just, we need to remember that there is so much to go around and opportunities come all the time and things like this, and it's just it's proof that
exactly.
it can happen.
And if you're so focused on all of the opportunities that other people are getting, and you're not open to the opportunities that could happen to you, then they're not going to happen to you, because you're so putting your energy elsewhere, as opposed to being open and ready for those opportunities to come into your own life.
Yes, 100%.
Totally.
Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy. I think that's one of my favorite.
Deep.
Do you like that one? I
do like that. I'm going to write that down. Comparison is the thief of joy. One of my favorites is perfectionism is the cock blocker of creativity.
That is accurate.
Oh, I like that too.
I like it.
Very nice.
One of my hard-ass New York acting teachers that I had, she was always like, perfectionism is the cock blocker of creativity, guys. Just don't try and be perfect.
I love that.
She was awesome. I was like, can we get a shirt made with that quote on it? I would wear that around. I love it.
What would your advice be for other actors who are chasing this dream from your experience?
That's interesting, because I teach young people 3 times a week, like between the age of 13 and 18. So I'm constantly in their world and seeing how they behave, and how social media and school expectations affect them. And I guess my biggest thing would be that, I mean, it's a learned skill, right? I think you learn it as you become an adult, and sometimes it takes even longer for people. They don't learn it until they're 30 or 40, and that is that you really just have to trust your gut and trust that the journey that you are on is the right journey, and that it's not always going to be pretty. But you just have to trust that you're on the right path. But you'll only be on that right path if you like live in the moment, as opposed to thinking too far ahead, or we never know what's around the corner. Like I always say, like I could die tomorrow, and as grim as that is, it's just fact and it's truth. So just try and exist and be present every day and do what makes you happy. we have all of these expectations and, you know, things that your parents or your school or your what yourself put on to you. But know your truth, listen to your truth, and chase that.
Yeah.
It's easy said, you know, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Even just like that sentence, like, do what makes you happy. It's like, yeah, that we can say that, and as a creative person be like, yeah, I'm totally doing what makes me happy. I'm writing music, I'm releasing music, but am I really doing what makes me happy? I think that is something I really like. The themes that we've talked about today, I think, are just so important. You know, like, are we doing things because they are the expectations of people around us or ourselves, or what we think society asks of us or expects from us? Or is it genuinely because we just freaking love it?
Exactly.
What a great conversation, and what a great place to end. So yeah, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
My pleasure. It's been a joy.
Oh, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, I feel so inspired. I'm gonna have to go and do a bit of journaling, I think, after this.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode.
If you'd like to be a part of the artwork conversation, we would love to invite you to join our Artwork Community Facebook group, where you can connect with the artists we've featured on the podcast and share your journey with a like-minded community. You can find the link in the show notes, as well as all the links to today's artist.
If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would take the time to subscribe to and review it so that more people can find us in the future. Your comments can help us pop up on more people's suggested podcasts, helping our artists' stories reach a wider audience.
Podcasts are best spread by word of mouth, so if you know people who might enjoy this episode or the Artwork podcast as a whole, we would love it if you told them all about it. And if you'd like to financially support this project, you can now do that on Patreon, where you can choose the amount you'd like to give us for lots of fun rewards.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at art.workconversation.
And tune in next week for another inspiring episode. Bye!
Bye!